I'm going to bring up Jaque. There you are, dear one. There's more love for you coming in, Shantae, so you can always go look at that. Hello, dear Jaque. I'm going to take myself off for a moment so we can get a nice photo of you holding the book. Hold on, I'll tell you when I got it. There we go. Jaque Hanson. Yay, with this gorgeous book, Unbreakable Spirit, and your very powerful story. Here we go. So Jaque's story is pain was the midwife, spirit was the medicine, my daughter, suicide, addiction, and the birth of my power. So I'm just going to read from your bio, Jaque. Jaque Hanson is a fierce and compassionate guide through the soul's deepest metamorphosis. Her path ignited in 2002 when her daughter's suicide attempt cracked open a portal of profound awakening. This heart-shattering moment became a sacred turning point, activating Jaque's intuitive gifts and catapulting her into a life of healing, purpose, and spiritual devotion. She has since become, that's 2002, so we're looking at 23 years ago. She has since become a vessel of wisdom, weaving together shamanism, energy medicine, esoteric arts, Kundalini yoga, and Maya abdominal therapy into powerful multidimensional offerings. As the founder and spiritual director of the Beehive Mystery School and Be Present Wellness, she supports empaths, intuitives, and cycle breakers to release ancestral burdens, embody their sacred gifts, and rise to their full potential. Her radiant presence and regal compassion create a field of transformation. Her deepest gift is to offer. Oh, she has a gift for you in the book. Yeah, and I want to say a lot of the authors do. Some of them have URLs or they have QR codes, and you can go there to get a taste of their beautiful energy medicine. So, Jaque, really, really, really good to be with you today. And this chapter is powerful. Tell us, from the title, how did pain become the midwife for your transformation? And how did spirit guide your healing journey?
Well, my chapter talks about how I have been in resistance of my power my whole life. I actually did a ceremony at age 12 to abdicate any spiritual gifts. I wanted to be very brainy, scientific, normal.
Wow.
And so I literally had this whole ceremony by a friend that owned a temple. And I thought I was pretty much, like done. My hands were clean. I could just be normal. And until my daughter had all the things that happened, and there was just this incredible, one of my biggest clairs is my knowing. I just have a knowing. And even though truly assumed that I didn't have those gifts anymore. Even though I dabble here and there with intuition, I always was very clear to have boundaries about it. And when it all went down, it was very clear that I had to step into my power to help her want to save herself, because I couldn't be with her 100% of the time for the rest of her life. So it was very interesting, very intense, and I can't believe it's 22 years later, and I can't believe that I wrote about it, and I can't believe that you got me to juice up the keyboard with all of it, and it took your magic and your expertise and my trust in your work from 12 years ago of being my first online teacher and coach and yoga inspiration. So that was, yeah, that was just perfect.
Well, you're welcome, and my pleasure to get to be part of this birth of this story.
Yeah.
Well, you write about, excuse me, I'm having a little moment here. I just put a cough drop in. Hopefully that'll help. You write about your daughter's struggle with addiction and suicide.
Hmm.
She's still alive today, right?
Yes, she is.
I think that has to be one of the hardest things as a mom. Talk to us
I
about your
I
journey.
believe it's on the top five for sure. I was a very much a helicopter, I guess you'd say, mom, and I've invested all of me for both my children, and she was very much into the arts and so both my kids, anything and everything that we could support them with, we did that, and I was hands on in doing that, and so it was just everything was just such a, it was just so confusing when it was happening because I was there all the time, and so I went through a lot of self blaming. How could you not know something was wrong? And we literally, and there's definitely a whole book waiting. And I was told by my guides over 10 years ago that I would be writing about this. And I tried three different times and I never could come up with anything. And yeah, because yeah, yeah, it took the right atmosphere, the right timing, you showing up, and yeah.
Well, tell us about a moment when you reclaimed your power, because that's really what your chapter's about. What would be one or two moments where you,
There were so many. I feel like I was actually in mystery school last weekend. We talked a lot about the book and circumstances because it was helping pretty much my whole life. All the things I've been through, all of these awakenings are helping people now that study with me, that work with me, and that's just insane to me. 22 years ago, I was just in the thick of it, and here I'm helping people with it. And I feel that one of the things that I shared yesterday was when I remember exactly when compassion had its way with me, and I had this huge heart opening. We were in this huge room with maybe 30 people, and the kids had to share their drug history to their parents, to the family that was there, and to each other. So the kids would go first, and then they would share.
this was when she was in treatment?
Correct. She was at this renowned place, which is about an hour, 15 minutes from here. We were very fortunate that it was so close. And so we were the last family to go. So it started to my right, and I was the very last person. She was to my right, and I remember I was outraged with the pain of each child, the circumstances the families were in. And I was raised to be polite, to cross my legs, to smile, to be a debutante, so growing up in Brazil, it was not about rocking the boat. It was not about questioning. And so this whole thing just erupted me into becoming who I am now. And I couldn't recognize myself. And honestly, I didn't have time to question myself. I had no time to uh, double check to see. It was action packed time. And I remember just roaring and I was bawling and I was crying and I was expressing my anger and these circumstances. And I remember the manager of the kids unit for that. She was like, Mrs. Hanson, we need to settle down. And like, that was just not me. I've never acted that way. But it was just the outrage, really. My daughter started to really see, and it started to shake her up because she never knew me to act like this. In a certain kind of way, I was raised to be a doormat, and there was no doormat left in me to be seen or felt. Or yeah, yeah, it was 100%. It was a Kundalini, truly a Kundalini rising experience for me, and it literally changed my life.
Well, I'm wondering if your willingness to go there, even if the treatment director didn't appreciate that and wanted you to put the lid back on, if that's part of what saved her life.
That's exactly what did it. I almost got kicked out on Thanksgiving because something else came up. And Mrs. Hanson, yeah, they literally asked me to leave because it was just, and literally she was still using while she was in there.
Oh my goodness.
And so when I found out about it, I was just, and that was literally, that's her clean date. It was Thanksgiving
Oh my
of
goodness.
22 years ago when she was at this facility because she saw this lioness come out of me. And yeah, yeah,
But just seeing somebody angry in and of itself is not going to cause somebody to become sober. That person has to make a choice. So there must have, I'm going to guess, be something that was highly compassionate about your anger, or it would
correct.
have touched her in that way.
Correct. Yes, I was just sharing. I did a post yesterday and I told my students, I actually used that as part of the teachings yesterday in mystery school. The song by Mariah Carey, Through the Rain. So I disliked greatly to have photographs taken of me my whole life. I never thought I was ugly or unattractive, and that's 3 years ago, I did some ancestral healing and it's now I know why. But my whole life, I was never comfortable being in photographs. And so my daughter knew I would have panic attacks literally when I was a child about piano recitals. And I just got sick. I developed IBS and all kinds of stuff about being seen and any of that stuff. So when she was hospitalized, she tried to kill herself. That's my chapter is about. And so they couldn't handle her. So she had to be put in a lockdown facility in a hospital in Reading
Mm,
for about 10 days. And so I drove her there with the director of the unit, of the teenagers unit. And I remember when I came back, I knew that's when I started receiving downloads. And I would say things that made no sense to Jaque, the human, but it was the only thing that had impact in her. And so I just started going with it. And literally started channeling. And I didn't know what it was. I just kind of like fake it till I made it because I didn't know better. I had no teachers, I had no guides, no books or Facebook, or there's nothing. It was just really me and creator. And so I one of these times that I had with her, I came home and there was this song playing and it said exactly, the words was exactly what I wanted to tell her, that you're going to make it through the rain, through the storm and the shadows, talk to you and you can't believe it. And it was like all these downloads were just coming. So I remember I bought the CD, I went to my bedroom, and for a couple of hours, I memorized the song and I was going to sing to her in the Sunday masses that they had. But my daughter, I never spoke in public. I know because I was terrified. I was uncomfortable. And she was very comfortable with all of that, but not me. So when I stood up and I took the CD and I said, "Can you please play this song?" Because people did that in this it was like a Al-Anon/AA meeting, crashed into a Catholic priest that was incredible. And it was this mass. So I asked him to play the song and I was going to sing this song to my daughter after she came back to the Karen Foundation from the hospital because I really felt like she was going to succeed at some point at killing herself. And I had to show her how much I loved her beyond anything that she's ever seen. And so I remember all the girls were there and she was just in shock, speechless the whole time. She couldn't cry or anything. And I literally sang and I just bawled and I sang the whole song and everybody in the room cried. There were hundreds of people in this huge place and they were all crying. And I just really wanted for her to know how much I loved her beyond, so it was like it was an anger. So the outburst, it was just filled with rage and compassion. And it was something it's hard for me to even put to words.
rage and compassion are such a fascinating combination, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They're intertwined for sure.
You talk a lot about Kundalini. I know it's something that you wanted to talk about. Um, how do you see anger and compassion as part of the Kundalini journey?
Oh my goodness. Oof, that would need a whole hour for that, that answer.
We don't know.
Uh, um, well, Kundalini risings can be ecstatic and sweet, and that is why I only teach Kundalini yoga, because it's so impactful and it's so detoxing of the toxicity that we are impregnated with from our parents to society to our religions and all of that. And it's when you learn the techniques and you work with them, then you can really master yourself. Instead of, I never imagined I would be activated, initiated, whatever you want to call it, in this lifetime. It just, I had memories of things, and I would just like put them aside. This is just a dream, and I would make excuses. But the truth is, I was a very transcendent kid that had very non-transcending parents, and I was the only child. And I just thought and felt that education was the only way that was going to get me out of that prison of my family. And I focused on becoming a little adult. So I really appreciate Shantae. I literally learned to become, a playful person. And it's funny because I've always had a goofy Sagittarius side of me, but it wasn't really a truly playful. So I went to Malta with a bunch of women to do spiritual work, and that's where I met my inner child, and I allowed myself to play and to become a priestess and do incredible work in the temples, and have sisters. And so as an only child, having priestess sisters have been the light of this lifetime for me.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to invite everybody to put into the chat. Oh, you know what? I think there already is. We have um some love for you in the chat. Let me see what we've got here. I think the doctors found me too intense and would rather drug me than empathize. Sorry about that. And sometimes, yeah, 100% I think I'm alive despite what they did. They really just put me on drugs instead of helping me with the root issues. But my mom was able to help me with that. Beautiful. Maureen is thanking that Zoom user for being here. Carol from San Miguel says, by the grace of some power greater than my own, my daughter is clean and sober 18 years, returning from the depths of despair, life changing for all who love her.
Mm.
Hi, Carol. I think I know you. Zoom user. My name is just not on my account. Yeah.
Oh,
Um,
by the way, JH is my daughter, Jessica Hanson. So she's in the chat.
all right. Well, Jessica, welcome. And
Live and kicking.
you're here. I love it. Shantae, go Sag, sister. Pramila, wow, rage and compassion, call for exploration. Thank you, Jackie. Annette, such power in your story. Mara, blessings, Jackie. Thank you for sharing your amazing story of the power of a mother's love for her child. Vajrama, thank you for what you've forged through this massive passage with your daughter. Anna, inspiring and touching. Jackie, so grateful for you and all the guidance you provide to us in mystery school. Your peep sounds like Vajrama. Perhaps rage and compassion is just what the wrath of wrathful deities is. It serves life. Kathy, thank you for sharing your story. So many families are impacted with this, for sure. And we hear about the kids. We don't often think about, the journey of the mom or the awakening of the mom. Leah, thank you for actually, yeah, and thank you for the powerful story that will resonate. Amy, powerful, raw, and beautiful story. Julie, what a beautiful mother-daughter journey. Truly transformative for both of you. Anna, you and your daughter turned it around. Okay, so thank you so much, Jackie. And what we're going to do now is we are going to um, go into breakout rooms where you can each share what has really touched you and what you're taking away from this. Um, what inspiration for your own life do you want to integrate? So we heard from Mara about that dream and the owl carrying her into the light, that we are all carried through difficult times into the light, and moving through panic attacks into finding her calling now as a healer through her pregnancies and the guidance of her babes in womb. and Shantae about the importance of play and recovering play to let the little child inside of us know that she's worthy and get new creative insights from play. And the universal, I would say, experience that we've all had of being shut down through some experience in childhood. I mean, there may be some rare people who are not shut down by the time they reach adulthood, but a lot of us need to release that cocoon. And then Jaque, the story of her awakening and finding her Kundalini to save her daughter's life. And there's quite a bit more in all of these stories, I will say. We've just touched on tiny little parts. So when you all get to read this, you will see the depth and breadth of these stories. But in the groups now, I invite you to share, what message are you taking for your life? What is the wisdom you want to apply to a situation in your life, a relative who's struggling, yourself who's struggling, or just hold as wisdom for the future? And I'm going to make breakout rooms. We'll do 12 minutes, which basically comes down to about 3 minutes per person. So please choose a timekeeper. One group has 4. Just a minute. There we go. Now I'm opening the rooms. You will need to accept the invitation. Back. All right. Would you be willing to put into the chat just one thing you learned from some... Hold on, we have a echo. Go into the participant list. Somebody, I'm going to mute everybody now that we're back in here. Hopefully the echo. If you'd be willing to put into the chat something you learned from somebody else or an insight you gained from someone in your chat, that would be amazing and an amazing way to close this out. And I loved whoever said, I don't remember who said it, maybe it was Mara, that we're going through on a journey really by getting to explore the themes from each of the 18 chapters. So this was just the first day of the journey. We have 2 more days to get to hear from 12 more authors. Thank you to all of you who are showing up and supporting these incredible authors. And I hope you're having a great experience of your own growth. I love learning about Dance Church. Cool. I want to know about Dance Church. The commonality of the desire for play. We're not alone. I have a book called Play It Away, which is, you might be interested in that, Shantae. It's called Play It Away. It's about play as therapy for reducing anxiety in entrepreneurs. We're not alone in this esoteric experience. Everyone has a story that can inspire or help others. Love your owl medicine, Mara. We need to chat about owl blessings. I know some of you are still typing. I'll give you one more minute. I see Kathy's fingers going there. I encourage them to write their story too. They remind me that we're all in this together. Play when I'm fully immersed in the present moment. I love getting to meet Jackie's daughter. Yeah, where's Jackie's daughter? I see you, Jessica. Thank you for being here. Shantae says she is so beautiful and wise in and out. Love it. Neelam, I learned that bring our soul innocent play is necessary for healing, deepening into the power of embracing who we are fully. We are all on our way home to ourselves. Carol, how our stories are more important than ever for daughters and granddaughters. Interesting. Yep. Leah, thank you for this session. I learned so much from everyone, and our discussion in our room with Julie and Neelam reminded me of how healing it is to share our stories, not just for ourselves, but for others. It is about sharing with each other. 100%. Thank you, Leah. Hyla, there's such transformative power in women supporting each other's group. Jessica, I look forward to trying Shantae's gift in her chapter and trying to have some fun after all I have survived. May it be so, Jessica. I've been in my cocoon now for 10 years since surviving slavery. Oof. And healing has been challenging, and it's time to have some fun more often. Okay. Beautiful. Okay, well, thank you all for being here. I hope to see many of you tomorrow for our next 6. We'll have 6 more tomorrow and then 6 more on Wednesday. Play well. Namaste. Bye.